morning, Mike Stather here
Carl Bethke.
on the Obsession Podcast. Coming back here, another question. Thanks for tuning in. This has got several parts to it. I think I'm going to try to break it down to each part. So we had a question come in. What are your thoughts on all-day sits? Do you do them? Explain. Time of year, number of days. Do you need to do it to be successful? So we could be here for a week.
That would be a week.
So I'm going to start out with my thoughts on all-day sits. I've done them, obviously. I think they can be very beneficial, depending on the time of year. I'm not going to go out opening day and sit all day.
No.
And I know people that do it.
So do
And
I.
I'm not saying you can't be successful,
No, but you're probably just educating your deer.
most likely.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, an all-day sit to me is, I would do it personally, pre-rut, aggressive buck stage, where they're really moving, searching, trying to establish their territory,
Yeah.
to me anyway.
And that part of that too is, let's just say all day sit. An all day sit to me doesn't mean you go sit in one tree stand.
I was gonna say that too. If I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna sit somewhere in the morning,
Yep.
which is, we could go back, whatever other podcast that was, morning stands,
Yeah.
afternoon sits, you still have to move yourself around.
I think number one on that part is to realize, you guys have to realize what a morning stand is and what an evening stand is.
Because otherwise you can sit all day there and destroy a stand.
Right, and then there's also probably what we would consider, well, Mike and I consider transition stands.
Yes.
So, you were saying about the morning stand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's where you're gonna get in the morning, and hope, you're obviously, if you're in a morning stand, you're somewhere where they're transitioning back
Yep.
from their food to their bed.
That's
That's
exactly
where you
right.
should be in the morning. So if you're not in one of those stands in the morning, your chances are even less than normal.
Right.
So your all day sit now turns into your morning's wasted, because obviously everybody knows, or I shouldn't say everybody knows, but
Yeah.
deer have to feed about every 3 to 5 hours, depending on weather.
Yeah.
So it's another big factor on your
Oh, yeah.
all day sit and where you're sitting, and it's not just getting in the woods and that's a good stand, I'm gonna sit there all day.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And 3/4 of your
Yeah.
day's day.
Yeah, and I hope you're tired because you can get a lot of napping in.
No, there will be a lot of that.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that plays into factors with that. Like we were saying, so what do you do then, Carl, in the morning? Say you don't see any deer in the morning. What do you do then?
Well, if I'm not seeing any deer in the morning, number one, I'm probably gonna. First, I'm not going in there unless I'm pretty sure I'm gonna see deer. Number one, have to be able to get in there around them from their feeding to their bed. So I'm getting in that transition. So for my areas in here at your place too, we have altitude, so basically vertical transition, and we know in the mornings these thermals are going up, so we're gonna hunt high.
On high.
Yep.
Yep, you're safe.
And about 9:30, the wind is gonna change, or the thermals are gonna change, or something's gonna change. You have to get out of that stand.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna get into what I call a midday moving stand, or midday transition stands. So midday transition stands to me are actually fairly close to bed. Okay, so this is where it gets dangerous.
Yeah, because I think people got to remember, or maybe they don't know, those deer that you see in the morning on food, they're not bedded that far from that food.
No.
They're fairly close.
Yep.
They could be within 50 yards of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're not going to see them laying down in the dark.
No.
And some of them are going to go back past you in the dark and lay down already.
And this also comes in the time of year too. So that's why I don't do all day sits until after October 20th.
Yep.
And Mike and I will tell you, you'll hear us talk about it all the time. To us, October 20th is kind of like a magical switch. That's when
That's rattling time.
rattling time, you'll start to get more aggression. Now, don't get me wrong. If you get a big cold front in early October, you see the same stuff, but it's not consistent.
Yep.
So we say, we've been doing it over 30 years, that October 20th is kind of the switch. That's when you're gonna start to see a lot of the pre-rut stuff that we talk about all the time. And Mike will tell you, I think, and I'm gonna tell you, I shoot most of my deer during the pre-rut, not during the breeding phases. So midday movement to me, what's gonna happen is the deer are transitioning from food into their bedding areas. Like Mike says, they can be within 50 feet or 50 yards to 150 to 200 yards. And usually that's what I consider like the doe zone. But early morning, you get the buck movement in there, right? And the does are gonna bed closer to the food. The bucks are gonna bed back further in the cover from there. So what's happening is the deer that have passed you in the morning are going a little bit further up the ridge or past you or down over the other side. Knowing where they bed's important. If you think that one of the bucks you wanna hunt is in there, for midday movement, you can move closer. For me, it's a little more difficult because I'm a little bit more passive than Mike. Mike's aggressive. Mike stands right over the top of his bed and he don't care. He'll go in there and just sit and wait on him. Right?
Correct.
That's correct. A lot of those deer back there on the wall are proof of it.
And a lot of them that aren't back there on the wall are proof of it
A
also.
lot of
so
them that
trust
are-
me, it doesn't always work.
So there's advantages, disadvantages to both of that, but the midday movement for me is basically 10 a.m. to about 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's always the hardest hunt for me because you're so close to where they're actually bedding.
Yeah, I've done a lot of all day sits. I know you've done a lot of all day sits, Carl. I over the years have leaned more towards getting in a stand early in the morning. Now this depends on where I'm at. If I'm on my ridge, I'm out there at 9:30.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, I'm getting into a stand early and I'm sitting there longer.
Yeah.
I think people get out too early. You get bored, you get out too early, and all of a sudden you're gone. An hour later, you got deer walking by your cameras.
Yeah.
They're still up and moving. So I've tried to really later in the year. This is mid-October on.
Yep.
Get in a stand in the morning, sit that stand, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I'm like, all right, I'm not seeing a lot. I'm gonna get down, eat quick, switch my game plan, and I'm going back into another one then for the rest of the early afternoon and tonight. That is what I try to do.
Yep.
That in my opinion, I believe has been more successful for me.
No, I agree with that 100%. The midday movement, I'll be honest with you guys, I'd say maybe one or two of the 57 bucks I've shot, one or two have been what a lot of people call midday movement, noon, 11:30 to 1:30 p.m.
Yeah. And I always think like the all day sit thing, like when I used to gun hunt, that's when I saw it more because people can't sit still.
They get
People
out.
are up and they're moving deer. I think if you're a gun hunter,
Oh, it's great.
don't move.
No.
Sit all day.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have a shot at something. Because
Yeah.
people are anxious. People don't have patience. They
Get in there, hunt until about 9 a.m., take your nap from 9 a.m. to about 10.
sleep 9 to 10:30.
Wake up from 11.
Have a
To
sandwich.
about 1. Yeah, there's a lot to that. I don't very often all day sit what people consider get in a tree stand, sit in the same stand all day. I don't do that. I never do that anymore.
No.
And the reason for that is there's 3 different positions you have to be in throughout that day to do what I call an all day sit. And the numbers that Mike's saying are very similar to mine, probably within a half hour of when I get out and move or go and get something to eat and come back. Like, I would say if you're gonna do that midday movement deal, that's the rut pretty much from like November 3rd to I'd say November 14th is when you get midday movement. Because if a buck breeds a doe early in the morning, he starts that search again. And you'll get them in between bedding areas and catch them in transitions between bedding areas. That's kind of how I see that.
And you got newer ones searching that haven't got one yet. So.
Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah, and it just like on elk, I like basically, you have the dominant herd bull. Same with whitetails. You'll have a dominant buck, and then you'll have basically subordinate whitetails trying to do the same thing. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of those subordinates actually breed those too. So. Which a suburban buck, depending on where your area is, or what you have on your land for deer, could be a 3.5-year-old or 4.5-year-old,
Yep.
or it could be a 1.5-year-old buck. You know, I'll say on my property, I mean, you hunted there with me quite a bit this year. I mean, we really didn't see it, but 4 or 5 different 1.5-year-old bucks.
No,
The rest of them were
yeah, there's a lot of big.
2.5
Yeah.
and bigger deer.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, a testament to the food plots part of that property, but pure luck too. The late evening deal for us is always that transition from where their bedding area is the food, obviously.
I mean, if you're,
I always hunt food at night.
yeah, if you're talking numbers wise, and you know they've asked us, you need to do it to be successful. If you look numbers wise on anybody that bow hunts and is successful at big deer every year,
Mhm.
I'll ask you this because I know what my answer is, and you're going to say the same thing. When do you shoot the majority of your deer? Which 2 times?
Morning and evening.
Correct. So just after light and just before dark.
Yeah,
And I mean that's going to never change.
Mhm.
You know, are you going to kill big deer at other times? Sure, but your most successful times are right at dawn
Yep.
and just right at dusk,
Yeah, 100%.
and that's when they're moving. It isn't rocket science for that.
Yeah. And
You
that's
know, and it's but
even
that,
during the rut.
yeah, they still are going to move.
Because if a doe goes and
Yeah.
lays down, he's gonna lay down right with
Yeah,
it.
he ain't gonna move.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody out there that's listening, they see it, and
Oh.
you're like, oh, how do I get to that deer? Yeah, you probably don't.
No.
You wait and hope that she wants to come back past you.
100%.
Because you don't want to blow her out of there.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean that's, and I can't say I don't know people that don't do it and are successful,
Right.
but I don't know a lot of bow hunters that do it
Right.
that are successful.
The other part of it too is it's easier on. That's gonna sound bad maybe, but it's easier on your body. If you go in there in the morning, you do your thing. I don't want to say it's high stress, but you're at a higher attention level
Yeah, and
when you're hunting.
I was going to touch on that too
The
because
mental part of it.
your focus just wanes as the day goes on.
Oh yeah.
And
Midday you're
screwing
weak.
off.
You're weak midday.
You know, I remember. I know you remember this years ago when I was hunting the property by Fox Lake, and I named that buck Facebook because I was on my phone, effing off,
Yep.
and I saw him coming. I'm like, oh, looks like a pretty good deer. You know, I might as well have my head in my ass.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And he walked literally to my stand and right past me, and it was a close to 150 class buck, and I'm standing there with it in my hand, so to speak, because I'm not paying attention. I'm not focused on what I'm doing, and I never had another shot at that deer.
That was your one chance.
Yeah, and that was an all-day sit,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what a moron, you know, because it's very easy to become distracted
Oh yeah.
and not know what you're doing anymore.
Yeah.
Like you're saying.
Yeah, I don't. The midday movement, you know, there's guys that'll shoot deer midday movement. Like I said, that's later in the year for me. That's basically breeding phase stuff, because it's basically you're hunting a transition zone, and hopefully one of the does brings one of the bucks past you. That's what I think.
Right.
I will, even during the rut, hunt morning till, like you said, 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get out of there. I mean, how many times we get out of there and we go eat something,
Yeah.
and we're right back in the trees by 1:30.
Yeah, we like we were saying, we like to stay a little bit longer, but get out even earlier.
Mhm.
Let everything calm down. You know, most of the time, Carl and I will sit there for 3-4 hours at night,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is moving.
That's a fact.
But then, it starts to happen.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
just clicks.
So it's, I'll sum it up on my end. I'm not gonna knock anybody if they do it.
Nope.
But I think you can have a lot more successful ways just being the mornings, the nights, watching where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hunting, I don't think you hunt it any different as the year goes on. I think you need to hunt your stands how you need to hunt them,
Yep.
when you can hunt them. Time of year, to me, doesn't matter because there's going to be deer at certain stands at certain times of year. Everybody's got a stand that is better later in the rut, stuff you stay out of, so you stay out of it until that time.
Yep.
You know, you don't want to overhunt things. You don't want to all day sit somewhere you shouldn't be.
The one thing I'll say that'll help everything that Mike just said, and this will help you, it's a tool, if you can use it, utilize it, is game cameras. This is constantly documented on my cameras and on Mike's cameras, is you can actually check the timing on deer movement. Okay? And what you consider a morning stand, you're gonna be able to check the camera that's there. I never set stands, or I never set cameras that don't have stands near. Because I need to know that information. Why have it there if you're not gonna utilize it anyway?
Yeah, if I have a camera that's not on a stand, it's because it's a place I'm thinking I'm gonna put a stand.
Well, right,
So I might veer one off, but it's probably gonna be fairly close to
yeah,
where I have movement already, like
Yeah.
you're saying.
yeah, it's just for minor adjustments. I'm not saying don't go randomly put cameras on if you've got them, because you wanna go hunt a certain area, you're seeing a lot of sign. What I'm saying is that it'll actually help you, make your decisions on all day movement. That's how I look at it. And I'm like you, I'm a morning, evening guy.
Mhm.
Morning, lates, 11 a.m. getting out probably. Unless I'm seeing deer movement, then I'm staying,
Yeah, so,
right? But out by 11 a.m. usually, back down to the truck, either to warm up, get something to eat, or both. Make a game plan for the evening. Because maybe I'm going to be able to hunt a different deer in the evening because it's got a higher percentage.
mhm.
And that's how I do that.
Yeah, cause you know, your morning sit might be kind of more of a getting ready for the night.
Right. Yeah.
Cause, well, I can't get in this stand at night.
Yeah.
I know this deer's here in the morning
Mm-hmm.
at this stand, but I can't get in there.
Right.
So you don't get in there.
Right. Yeah. Don't ever go in there and educate your
Or
deer.
you go somewhere else, you know, and I mean, nobody's all day sitting to shoot a doe.
Never.
So, you know, I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, the does on your property should be very, very predictive.
Yeah.
If you've got your stuff together, or even if you're hunting public, you should be able to predict the doe movement. And obviously, the right time of year, doe movement, buck movement,
Yeah, no movement dictates buck movement.
100%.
Yeah, I think, you know, just go back to being smart.
Yeah.
Where you're hunting, when you're hunting.
You need to educate yourself to be an efficient hunter, to be productive, and have the ability to shoot a good buck every year. You have to do a lot of scouting, a lot of education of yourself, tactics that work for you. Maybe you're better at doing certain things than other things, and know your deer movement is number one. Do you need to do it to be successful? As far as I'm concerned, no.
Yeah, I agree. I don't believe you need to do it to be successful.
So, what days? You know, like I told you guys, I don't ever remember. And you and I've hunted together for 20 plus years. I don't ever remember us sitting all day early.
No, never.
We sat till 11 o'clock.
Yeah, some people think that's crazy.
Well, we were back quite a ways, and the bucks were still moving in by
Yeah.
right around 10 o'clock.
Yeah, the property dictates that too sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
you might have a property that deer don't even come in there until 9, 10 o'clock.
Yep.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll hear some people talk about that, Carl, like, they don't go out before dark.
Mhm.
Or I should say before light, sorry.
Yeah.
They're in a stand an hour and a half after light.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot to
Yeah,
that.
and people are like, what the hell, you know? Well, that's because they know their deer movement,
Mhm.
and they can slip into stands in the light
Yeah.
and not bump deer because they can see everything they're doing. So it's a huge advantage, but it's not something I'll tell you to just go do
No.
if you don't know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a lot to that part too, and you're gonna make more mistakes. You're gonna screw it up more times than not. You'll be surprised, and hopefully you can learn from that part of it. You
Right.
have to be able to remember your mistakes. You know, if you're walking through the woods and being as quiet as you can, and just you think you're dead silent, all of a sudden you hear a deer get up and go. Well, guess what? You're late.
Yeah,
Or
that's true.
you know, maybe he was early or she was early. Who
Yeah.
knows? But you know, there's gonna be those times too. And don't ever think you're going in and not educating a deer, because your wind's blowing somewhere. You're gonna educate a deer. There's never not a time, even if you don't hear them. Maybe if there's deer in the area, they smell you or hear you or whatever. They might just stand there and watch you walk by
If you're lucky.
if you're lucky. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I'm good.
So basically what we're thinking is did you have to do it to be successful? No. What days do you do it? For days, I'm gonna say we start after the 20th of October.
Yes.
And I'm not saying go out the 20th of October if it's 80 degrees and sit all day, because that's not the way it is. You know, Mike and I both hunt fronts, big time. So if you've got a good front moving in, temperatures are low, you know, you could do this the 15th of October too. Big cold front coming in, you know, get in there early in the morning, hunt till 10 o'clock. Because it's a cold front, say it's 30 degrees colder than it was the day before. How many times have cameras by my house across the street showing great big beasts in the middle of the food plots
Yeah. And
midday?
And people, I think maybe we should say more hunt fronts.
Yes.
Not even cold fronts. Cold fronts, yes, but a front, any change in weather of 7 degrees actually
Yeah.
gets deer on their feet,
Oh, yeah.
up or down.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's, you know, it's, you
We
know,
should
had a big
probably do
swing.
another podcast on
We
that.
probably could. I'll stop right there. I'll stop that one right there.
We'll do the weathers on that. We'll talk weather on another podcast and tell you guys why we hunt weather fronts and how successful it's been for us. But I'd say 90% of our deer have been shot on fronts.
Yes.
Hopefully we explained it for you guys. I mean, that's the other part of the question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we go about doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, basically, all day sits, we don't do them anymore.
No.
We've done them. Time of year, we've explained.
Yep.
20th October or later.
Yep.
Do you need to do to be successful? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So there's our answers.
There you go.
And a lot of other crap in there that you can listen to.
Yeah. Hopefully you learned a little bit out
Yeah.
of some of that
Right.
stuff we said, but we appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for listening to the Obsession. We'll be back next Saturday, Mike and I, answering some more questions. The next question we've got coming up for next Saturday is, do you guys use scents? Yes or no, and why, and when, if yes. Well, we've got some opinions on the scents, so be sure to listen next week and what we have to say about deer scents. You got anything you want to throw in there, Mike?
Oh, great.
All right, perfect. You guys have a good week. Thanks for